Good morning, YouTube. Today is the 21st of January, 2013. As many of you know, today is the presidential inauguration day. The reason it's being done today on the 21st instead of the 20th, as usual, is because the 20th fell on a Sunday, so this is actually the second time in history that they moved it from the 20th to the 21st because of that. No big deal. But today we're going to talk about a touchy issue that I've kind of neglected a little bit. Been hearing a lot of things on, the news, Facebook, Twitter, things like that. I did a lot of research. All the research I did was on government website. It should be accurate. I hope it's accurate. So, gun control. First, I just want to say I have no problem at all with background checks, as long as they have limitations. I don't have a problem with checking to make sure that people don't have a history of violence, that sort of thing, before allowing them to purchase a gun. I think that there should be limitations because I don't want tomorrow the big government to say, hey, okay, we're going to make it so strict now on these background checks that basically nobody's going to be able to buy a gun. I don't want that. I don't think that's what the Second Amendment was for, and I think that background checks without limitations have that risk of going that direction. Also, we talk about people who have some sort of mental illness or mental disorder or sociological disorder, and whether or not they should have access to firearms. I think that a very easy way to fix this, and it would also create jobs maybe, is in order to be able to get a license to own a firearm, I think you should, well, by the way, I think everyone should be required to have a license to own a firearm. And I don't see any problem with that. Again, I'm conservative, but I don't see any problem with that. You have to have a license to drive a car. So I think that maybe people should have to have some kind of psychiatric evaluation before they are allowed to get a license. I find it kind of hard to believe that a psychiatrist is going to sign off to put a gun in the hands of somebody who is mentally disturbed. Okay, so now that we've covered background checks, I did the research, and each year there's about 8,500 deaths that are the result of firearms in some way. The breakdown of these 8,500 deaths as far as like the types of weapons used is pretty surprising, especially because most of us get our news from things like Facebook, Twitter, World Star Hip Hop, and the news, which isn't any better because it's run by political interests. But less than 700 of those deaths out of the 8,500 are done by rifles and shotguns. Those are actually two separate categories, but they're pretty close. They're 300 something apiece. I kind of put them together just for the sake of time. But that's really surprising, especially because we're talking about assault weapons ban and things like that. We're not talking about handguns, which is the overwhelming majority of the deaths that are resulting from firearms. Let's kind of compare that to some other way that homicidal weapons that are being used. It was 700 from rifles and shotguns. 1,700 deaths result each year from knives. 500 are from blunt objects, which is like baseball bats, a club, anything that can be used to hit somebody really hard. And this next one is my favorite. Over 700 deaths. Now, keep in mind, that's about the same as all rifles and shotguns. Over 700 deaths were brought on by fists, hands, and feet. So we're trying to ban these assault weapons, which are even less than the 700, because shotguns, those aren't on the table unless they have like a pistol grip sort of thing, which you can put on just about any gun, by the way. It's just an accessory. So we're talking about banning these assault weapons, and more deaths, an overwhelming amount of deaths in comparison, are being done by hands, fists, and feet. Let's talk about assault rifles. Assault rifles are these really scary things. They're those automatic weapons that are used by like military and police forces around the world, and they're intended to have the ability to kill as many people as possible. They're not used for sport shooting, they're not used for hunting, they're not really even used for self-defense. They're meant to kill as many people as possible. And you know what? I'm not afraid to admit it. I agree that most, actually all, normal law-abiding citizens probably don't have any need to own an assault rifle. Now, before you guys get really excited, like, oh my goodness, you're going against yourself, whatever, we really need to think about this. Assault rifles have been banned in the United States for about 30 years. So that's not what's on the issue, those weapons that are used by military and police to kill as many people as possible. That's not what's on the table here as far as the ban. The ban is for assault weapons. Now let's really think, and you should probably look it up. I encourage you to look it up so you can become more educated. What is an assault weapon? An assault weapon is a weapon that functions exactly like any other rifle. The only difference is those gunsmiths, the people who make guns, they kind of advanced with technology, and they made them out of things like metal, and they made them with more accessories like a collapsible stock, or the pistol grip, which is more ergonomically sound. It just makes more sense. They generally don't have wooden stocks. That's because wood breaks, and it's not really the best material to be used for heavy machinery. So basically they've just advanced with the times, made these weapons that are more technologically advanced, and in essence they look scary. That's what it comes down to. Assault weapons are normal rifles that look scary. Now, an AR-15, that's a huge one, you know, that's the #1 rifle owned in the United States. And it would be on this assault weapons ban. Is it more powerful? Is it more deadly than, say, a shotgun? Not by any means. But the only way that a shotgun would be included with an assault weapons ban is if it had a pistol grip. Is it designed to kill a lot of people? Huge spray, a whole crowd of, let's say, students in a school? Nope. It's pretty much the same as anything else. You pull the trigger once, it shoots one bullet. So why are we questioning all these assault weapons? And I'll get into that later. So let's go into actual shootings, and of course Sandy Hook is what brought all this on, because we're kind of a reactive sort of people, and the politicians are taking advantage of that and our stupidity. So the massacre at Virginia Tech, easily the deadliest school shooting in our nation's history. I think that it wouldn't have been as catastrophic if the assault weapons ban was in place and he wouldn't have been able to shoot as many people. Oh wait, I must be thinking of something else, because the Virginia Tech, the deadliest school shooting in our nation's history, was done by 2 handguns, which aren't even on the table right now with this assault weapons ban or the high capacity magazines or anything like that. So would it have helped? Nope. Many people are under this notion that this assault weapons ban is something new. It's something that we should have done a long time ago. There's no reason for all these scary looking weapons that function the same as every other weapon. There's no reason for them to be out on the streets and in the hands of normal law-abiding people, or especially criminals, because we know that criminals actually undergo background checks when they get their guns, and they care whether or not their rifle has a pistol grip. They're going to check that before they go and shoot somebody, right? So this assault weapons ban, first time it's ever happened in history. It's going to be this crazy new thing that's going to change our world. Wait a second. That's not true. From 1994 to 2004, we had an assault weapons ban. It was the exact same weapons ban that President Obama is trying to push for right now through Congress. No changes whatsoever. He actually has said publicly, I want a reissue of the same ban. But it was effective between 1994 and 2004. It was extremely effective. In fact, the National Research Council in 2004, they said that academic studies of the assault weapon ban did not reveal any clear impacts on gun violence. And also said, due to the fact that the relative rarity with which the banned guns were used in crime before the ban, the maximum potential effect of the ban on gun violence outcomes would be very small. So, in the words of President Obama, we've tried that already, and it didn't work. Now let's talk about these high-capacity magazines. A high-capacity magazine is defined as any magazine that holds over 10 rounds, right? And certainly, if we didn't have them, all these crazy school shootings that we've had would not have been nearly as effective, right? Let's look at Columbine. Most of the damage there was done with a sawed-off shotgun and a handgun. And the two shooters together had 16 magazines on them. Would it have mattered if they had 10-round magazines? Probably not. Let's look at Virginia Tech. Would it have mattered if he only had 10-round magazines? Nope, because he had 19 magazines. He had a backpack full of loaded magazines. So it wouldn't have mattered at all if they were 10 or 15, which they were. They were 10 and 15. So Sandy Hook, the thing that brought all this together. The shooter went unopposed the entire time. Nobody was fighting him, or the ones who did. I think there's these heroic stories, and I'm not trying to take anything away from the school administrators and how they tried to do something, but it didn't work because he had a gun. He could have done single loading the entire time. Just shoot, put in another one, shoot, put in another one, and it wouldn't have mattered. It would have been just as deadly. Again, high-capacity magazines wouldn't have made any difference. It's not about safety, which we're led to believe. It's about the systematic removal of the rights that made this country what it was when it started. The Second Amendment wasn't put into place so that we could go hunting. It wasn't put into place so we could defend ourselves from robbers or muggers or home invaders. It was put into place to protect ourselves from the government getting too big and taking away the rights that our country stands for. This is exactly why the Second Amendment was put into place. Why aren't they trying to ban handguns? Well, that's pretty simple, actually. Because handguns are the #1 weapons that come into mind when you talk about protecting yourself from home invasions, muggers, things like that. Another thing is it just wouldn't pass. Instead, they're going after these assault weapons that cause little to no crime, and they do. I'm not trying to take away from things. Yes, assault weapons are used in crime. They're guns, so are hands and fists. They're also used in crime. But they're scary looking, and the media and the political parties have done an excellent job at making it seem like these are assault rifles. So over the years, we've allowed this to happen because of one thing. Americans are stupid, Americans are fickle, and Americans will believe anything with a good sales pitch. We're tricked into believing that it's okay to give up some of our rights, a little bit of our rights, in order to feel safe, which is pretty apparent with like the Patriot Act, the NDAA, you know how the government can arrest and detain someone indefinitely, whether they've been charged or anything. All they have to say is, well, he could be tied to terrorism some way. But there's no limitations on government. Big government suddenly turns into like a tyrannical government, and now we don't even have guns to defend ourselves from these people. What I challenge all of you to do is to take off that wool coat that you've been wearing your whole lives. I know, I was wearing it. In some cases, I'm sure I still do. Take off that sheepskin and start thinking for yourself. Start questioning your government because you're supposed to. Start questioning the media because they're ran by the government and these political interest groups. And start thinking for yourself. Start doing the research yourself. And maybe we can end this thing. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to follow my blog at BurntCoffeeSucks.blogspot.com. I'm also on Twitter, again, at BurntSucks is my name on there. Subscribe, view my other videos, tell all your friends. Thank you again for watching. Goodbye.